It finally happened. If it wasn't already obvious, Mirage seems to be officially dead following this confirmation, which makes me and other Mirage fans pretty mad, because DICE is proudly saying they do not care about anything that isn't a quick cash grab. And it gave me a reason to make this video. I love Mirror's Edge, and I've been a fan for 9 years, and I genuinely think this game is great, even the reboot despite its flaws. This video is mostly directed at EA, but also at people who haven't had a chance to try out this game yet. You should consider getting it on sale for a few dollars. Trust me, it will be worth it. By the way, I'm doing something very special for my next video that will go live right after this one, so you should check it out after you're done watching, and thank you beforehand. Before Mirror's Edge, when you thought of parkour games, you'd think of Assassin's Creed or Prince of Persia, but there was no game that would actually let you feel like you were jumping from roof to roof. Until a new title by DICE got announced in July 2007, described as something fresh and different from Battlefield. The game was a first-person action-adventure shooter and had a very different art style compared to Battlefield, with all the clean, bright, saturated colors and fresh gameplay. In this game, you play as a delivery girl, Faith Connors, in a dystopian city under the constant government surveillance, where the only way to send something without the big bad knowing is to use the runner services. The game has no HUD or map. The only navigation you have is the objects lighting up in red color, telling you which path you should take to reach your destination, which actually adds up to the game's aesthetic quite well. I love playing with runner's vision on, even though I know the layout of every level. The combat is fairly simple. You had the option to either beat people up with your fists and disarm them and shoot the others, or just run away to your goal. The game came out in 2008 to be well received by critics and general public, and went on to sell millions of copies worldwide. The game's mechanics are nothing complex. You can jump, roll, slide, and as I already mentioned, fight and shoot. The game starts out from an optional tutorial, where Celeste is guiding you through the runner playground and helping you freshen up on your running and fighting skills. The game has a cool mechanic that is actually non-existent in the reboot: slow motion. By pressing R, you slow down everything around you for a few seconds, allowing you to pull off some cool tricks easier. To be honest, I don't really use this feature much, but I still think it's pretty neat and wish they somehow reworked this mechanic into Catalyst. Then comes one of my most favorite opening levels ever, the prologue, which starts from this great cutscene with the main theme playing. The actual level doesn't start the story yet. It is used to let you try out everything you've learned from the training outside of the playground, and let you feel as an actual runner doing the delivery, with some news helicopter following you as you jump through roof to roof. Eventually you stumble upon a bunch of cops that start shooting you, and you have to either keep running or fight some of them, which doesn't actually change anything. Like, you don't get a different ending for avoiding fights in this game, even though the fights are optional, and it is actually possible to avoid killing absolutely anyone. Once you finally give the delivery back to Celeste, SWAT team pretty much corners you, giving you no choice but to jump onto the news helicopter nearby.
You gotta get off that roof, mate. Don't care how you do it, just do it. This is meant to be a low-key job. Why the hell were they shooting? What did you do with it?
Nothing. They just opened fire.
Once it's over, the actual story starts, with the use of these animated cutscenes, which are used to actually move the plot and set up the chapter you're about to play. Right before the first chapter starts, we find out that Kate, Faith's sister, who is a cop, has gotten into some unknown trouble at Robert Pope's office, and Faith wants to find out what it is and help her. Once we get there, we find Pope's body and Kate sitting nearby, trying to process the situation. He has been shot in the head with her own gun, and she swears she didn't do it because, as she explains, everything went dark, and then she woke up to all this. Before SWAT team infiltrates the scene, Faith takes out a piece of paper from Pope's stolen diary which says Icarus on it, and offers Kate safety, which she refuses because, as she says, it would make her look guilty. The girls share a brief hug and Faith leaves the building with a chase on her tail. Once Faith makes her way through lots of chasing, she jumps onto a glass roof and crashes through, meeting up with another runner, Greek, who is completely irrelevant to the story. Not gonna lie, it's impressive how quickly Faith recovers and runs with him again.
You okay? Come on.
You did good, Faith. No word on what's got the blues so trigger happy, but I'll keep on it. And, don't worry about your sis, okay? We'll fix it.
Eventually, Merc suggests Faith should go and see Jackknife, a former runner with connections that might know something about why and who set Kate up, and allegedly he's somewhere near an old runner playground. Faith gets to business and she has to run through Canal Passage and get spotted, which results in another sequence where you need to run away from enemies trying to shoot you down, and I can't lie, it kinda gets tiring eventually. Why can't I just sometimes have a peaceful run, just enjoying myself and admiring the city around me? Come on, guys. And after doing a little bit of running, it's time for the part which makes this level my least favorite in the game. Faith has to go down a storm drain and then go up another storm drain on the other side, and I don't know why, but I just hate going up and down this storm drain. It's just so unfun, especially with this glitch that doesn't let you open the certain door, even though you've pressed the button like 50 times. I hated it as a kid and I still hate it to this day. Once we finally make it out of there, we are met by more enemies that we can fight, and for some reason this took me so long to complete when I was like 9. I kept running at them and getting shot, but it's actually so easy. You just disarm the first guy and the rest are one-shots in close range. After taking these people down, Faith has to go back on the rooftops to finally meet Jackknife. Except he doesn't really want to talk and you need to chase him. Honestly, this is the best part of the level and I really love it. After some chasing, Jackknife overjumps and just dies. Kidding, he wakes up right when Faith manages to find a way to get him and tells her to visit Roburn, Pope's head security. However, Faith wants to visit Miller first, the guy that Kate mentioned to talk to if things go badly. He indeed believes it was a setup, as Kate wouldn't do something like this, but he still doesn't tell us what Icarus is. And now onto some actual good levels. In the third chapter, you need to infiltrate Roburn's office for any clues, finding him on phone with someone planning to meet them, who we assume to be Pope's killer. Once he leaves the room, Faith gets out the vent and trips the silent alarm, alerting the police of her presence. But oh well, look, he somehow left his handgun, which we use to break the windows that we run into faster. I enjoy this chase sequence, it's definitely more fun than the previous chapter, especially with the fact that the action takes place on the rooftops again, not near storm drains and whatnot, and you get to run through buildings constructions. The combat parts are also fun, allowing you to slide kick some cops from great heights. The chapter ends with Faith asking Merc to arrange the meeting with Miller, right after jumping from crane to crane, which looks even more sick in the slow motion mode. Now, Faith manages to meet Miller again, this time telling everything she found out about Roburn. However, he refuses to help her and tells her he should kill her, as it's the only way police would go easier on Kate. But you know, this is Faith we're talking about. Our girl attacks him and takes his gun. You can't just take her this easily. She gives him his gun back, as she has no reason to kill him, but gags him a bit with this line.
I care about is Kate, and for her sake, I'm gonna let you go. But if you pull a gun on me again, I will kill you. And right now, I think I'd be doing the city a favor.
Chapter 4 kicks off with Faith noticing a CPF helicopter heading towards the abandoned building Roburn was talking about on the phone. Once she gets there, she sees Miller talking to Roburn and thinks he's a traitor and wants to intervene, until she gets literally jump-scared by Roburn that appeared out of nowhere. No, like seriously, this actually scared me so bad when I was a kid, it's just so random. When Faith manages to overpower him and throw him off the building, making him hold onto the edge of the pipe, Roburn confesses that he indeed framed Kate by hiring a so-called professional that he's gonna meet with at New Eden Mall tomorrow. Right before Faith tries to pull him up to hear about what Miller had to do with this, an unknown masked person shoots Roburn and makes him fall to his death. Oh well. The police infiltrate the building, which leads to Faith going into a subway station. She manages to escape the blues by jumping onto a passing subway train, making another one of the memorable moments from this game. Shortly, the police stop you from this subway surf moment by stopping the trains, forcing you to get off and run to the red door in fear as the next train is running right into you. You made it out alive, and Celeste is right there with you to hang out. In another animated cutscene, Faith tells Celeste about Pope's murderer and that she's planning to meet them at the mall, to which she reacts in a totally not sassy way by telling her to lay low and to drop the investigation. Faith opens up about her family. Her parents used to be friends with Pope, who used to organize protests. And at one of the protests that went bad, Faith's mother died. Ever since, the relationship with her father had been terrible, and eventually she left home. Merc found her and took her off the streets, and with time, she became the runner she is right now. Celeste keeps telling her to back off, saying it'll only get her killed, but Faith refuses again. The big day begins pretty intense. We need to run from police on top of subway overpass with the familiar trains from the previous chapter, which still managed to jump scare me at times.
To the next access stairway. Should be an alley close by.
After a good amount of resistance, we manage to get into the New Eden Mall and catch a glimpse of the masked assassin, only to quickly find ourselves in a trap surrounded with a bunch of police force which can't fight and are forced to flee and escape through the mall's roof. Where we catch another glimpse of the masked person, with Faith telling Merc she knows someone who might know more about the strange figure, hinting at Jackknife. He claims that he knows nothing, and she notices the Pirandello Kruger logo nearby, asking Merc to look up information on them, and decides to investigate one of the nearby facilities with a big, stupid dog symbol. As per usual, we have a bunch of evil people trying to stop us from our objective, so we fight a bunch of snipers and soldiers before we infiltrate PK and get to the ground level. It just feels so artificial and sinister. At the end of the hallway, we find an elevator lift, which we use to arrive to a large room with huge doors and tech everywhere. First thing Faith tries to find on here is Project Icarus, resulting in the screen filling up with the profiles of every runner. Realizing this project is supposed to be about eliminating runners, including her. Before we are forced to escape through the huge playground, Faith briefly notices the masked assassin on one of the screens. They seem to be on the boat at the docks. This is where we are introduced to the strongest enemies in the game. They don't have a long-range weapon, but they can jump from roof to roof and are just as good in combat as Faith. And one of my most favorite things about Mirror's Edge is how seamless the enemy introductions are. You get no cutscene with all the information and enemies' weaknesses or anything like that. You just know that they are indeed the strongest, after you learn that the Project Icarus was created to eliminate runners. They fight differently compared to normal enemies, and are more likely to kill you if you don't know what to do. Not gonna lie, they used to really creep me out as a kid, so I just always ran away from them without looking back, without ever trying to actually killing them.
Nice work. Look, I'm gonna try and get the word out on the network about Icarus and warn the other runners.
Do it. I'm going after that guy.
Now don't go just charging in there recklessly, kiddo.
That's Pope's killer, Merc.
Yeah, well, there might be more heat out there. It's too risky to try to get to the boat by foot. You'll be spotted for sure. There must be some way to slip in undercover.
I consider Chapter 7 a pretty unique chapter, as the entirety of it takes on the boat in search of the assassin, and not on the rooftops. While infiltrating the boat, we obviously run into a bunch of bad people, which we could have actually had an ability to completely avoid. From what I've heard, the early version of this mission featured a stealth sequence, which didn't make it into the retail version of the game. If you have the game on PC, you can try out the stealth mode for this mission, which restores the sequence. Eventually, we find the masked person on the top deck, resulting in a fight. Chase and a second fight. And after we managed to defeat them, we found out it was Celeste all along.
Cell? I tried to warn you off. I'm sorry. You've got to learn to let go, Faith. You remember? Like you did with your family. The runners are screwed. Icarus is just the start. And I want to live, Faith, not just survive. Why Pope? His campaign was getting unexpected support, but he got stupid. Started making threats to the wrong people. High-up people.
He found out about Icarus, so they had you kill him.
Him or me. Sorry about Kate. Didn't know she was your sis.
Don't ask, Merc, okay?
Heard all I need to hear, kiddo.
This is the main plot twist of the story that had been teased multiple times. Celeste was tired of living under constant threat and wanted a more comfortable life, and Pope had to be killed because he was seen as a threat the moment he discovered Project Icarus. So now Kate has been found guilty and is being transported in a convoy to jail, and our goal is to save her. One of the runners organized a sniper rifle drop spot at one of the places where the convoy will drive through. Just as the chapter begins, you're almost immediately being pursued by the scary running cops. Although this is the only time they appear outside of the PK chapter and the Lost, you won't see them in the last chapter. Which I found weird, since they're like the strongest enemies, but whatever. As usual, they can be easily ignored and don't give you anything when you defeat them. Eventually, we make it to an unfinished atrium that she needs to climb, while this amazing soundtrack score by Solar Fields is playing. This section is probably my most favorite in the game. I mean, I say that about a lot of things in this game, but come on, this is just way too beautiful. Now we find a sniper rifle laying near a window, just like Merc told us, and we need to wait for Kate's convoy so we could sabotage it by shooting its engine and making it crash.
What's happening? Report, over.
But if you also immediately shoot a white circle on a poster above, you will trigger a famous rat Easter egg. Pretty cool, right? All we have to do now is just fight through a ton of enemies and make it to the crashed convoy. Kate is alive and well, and finally agrees to take Faith's help, taking her earpiece so Merc could guide Kate to the runner's lair. Later in the evening, Faith comes back to the lair only to witness a horrifying scenery. The place got raided with no Kate inside and with Merc being left to die. As he's dying, he meant just to say that they took Kate to the Shard, known as Mayor's Place, and the tallest building in the city. And now, time for my hot take, for which I might get flamed, but I never really cared about Merc's death. Like, I don't know, to me he always felt like a very two-dimensional character that was just a voice in the main character's ear, telling you what to do. We never really had any deep meaningful conversations with him, never really got into his past. I understand that he's been like a father to Faith, but to me, as a player, he didn't bring much. But that is just my opinion, and you are allowed to think differently and disagree with me. The final chapter starts with Faith slowly walking towards a menacing glass fortress that is the Shard. The only thing that is playing in the background is the game's score and nothing else. There's no more Merc, and Faith has nothing to say. She is determined to save her sister no matter what. Okay, so I'm getting kinda tired of explaining everything, so I'll try my best to recap the finale as quick as I can. We blow up a door that leads into the parking garage full of cops that we obviously obliterate. We take an elevator that leads us directly into the shard. Faith gets ambushed by PK, but they immediately get shot by Miller, who is our new friend, and tells us that Kate is being kept at the very rooftop. More fighting, elevator shaft climbing, and being hunted by snipers on rooftops outside the building. Miller gives us access to emergency elevator that goes onto the last level before the roof. He tells us that we need to destroy the servers to open the roof entrance, which we do by either taking a gun or just running around the servers and make the PK destroy the servers themselves. Finally getting on the roof, we see Jackknife threatening to kill Kate and going on a long meaningless monologue on how he hates runners and all that. After kicking him off the helicopter, we can finally share a hug with our sister at a rather peaceful environment, standing at the edge of the shard and looking at the night city, while the iconic Still Life by Lisa Miskowski is playing and the credits start to roll. If you stay long enough, you can actually catch a secret message that I featured in my iceberg video, suggesting a sequel with Faith and Kate in hiding, while being hunted by PK, and the rest was history, but there was no sequel to this game.
A brazen terrorist attack at the Shard has left 9 people dead and many more injured. According to a Callahan staff member, a security breach led to a series of catastrophic outages in the Shard's many public protection systems, causing havoc not just at the Shard, but throughout the city. The suspects in the act are none other than the former CPF officer and accused murderer Kate Connors and her sister Faith Connors. Although the scope and precise cause of the outages is as yet unclear, many troubling questions have emerged in their wake, including the role of the so-called runners in the destabilization of city operations. In the aftermath of the incident, local security firm Pirandello Kruger will be assisting the CPF. PK and the mayor's office have also recommended mobile phone and email be used sparingly until additional security measures have been deployed, as their security has been temporarily compromised. The whereabouts of both suspects are currently unknown.
Before I get into the second part of this video, I want to talk more about the first game and what you can do after finishing the storyline. You don't really unlock much besides a hard mode, in case you want to beat the game again. There are also collectibles, yellow runner bags, scattered around the map in each chapter, for collecting which you unlock cool concept arts in the bonus section in main menu. And finally there are time trials, a bunch of maps from previous chapters, with checkpoints you run through and a set time to beat. Your results could go on a leaderboard and you could compare your and friends' times, but I think that's not a thing anymore sadly. The game was supposed to feature a full-blown multiplayer, with game modes like runners versus cops. Sadly that was scrapped and we never really got to see what the game mode would actually be like. And how could I go without mentioning the modding community? These guys truly deserve a higher credit than they get for making these mind-blowing custom maps that serve almost as DLCs with the amount of effort that get put into them. Especially considering the fact that the only DLC we got was just a few time trial maps. I can only go on and on about different maps created by the community, and I think they deserve an entire video on its own. The original game went on to selling millions of copies worldwide, leaving players and the entire world trembling in the anticipation of a new game. It had already been confirmed that Mirror's Edge is a trilogy, and the sequel was coming soon. More time went on and we kept getting zero information, besides DICE occasionally talking about how they're proud of the game that had already put out, and that they wanted to do more in this franchise. A statement was released in early 2011, saying Mirror's Edge 2 in the current state gets cancelled after EA rejects the sequel prototype, but with no intention of killing off a franchise. Good news appeared the next year with a new Mirror's Edge game in the making. The news would get confirmed later the same year. It was finally time at E3 2013. They finally surprise announced a new Mirror's Edge, without showing the gameplay prototype until a year later. It was unclear what purpose this game would serve in the franchise, as it was just called Mirror's Edge at the time, until E3 2015 with a new announcement under the name Mirror's Edge Catalyst, set to release in early 2016. No more sequel, we have a full-blown reboot with new faith, new world and characters, and is now open world instead of having linear closed-off levels. The game got delayed twice after being in closed beta, leading to the release in June 2016. This time, unlike the acclaimed original, it had mixed reviews from the critics. Many were upset about the removal of being able to use weapons, the upgrade system, and an empty open world. Even though I can't blame them for saying that about the game's world, I will never understand the hatred towards the removal of weapons. I love the combat system in this game, even if it gets repetitive over time. But I just can't see how I would enjoy shooting up K-Sac. I absolutely enjoy the fluent fights that won't distract you from parkour, and I gotta give DICE credit for actually working on this aspect of the game more than the original, that didn't have more than disarming and basic attacks, knowing people would prefer guns over melee. Upgrade system also makes good sense in my opinion. The game starts right from when Faith leaves jail after being there for 2 years. You can easily forget a lot of parkour and fight moves after having your freedom taken away for such a long period of time. For example, you can't use skill roll or quick turn like you did in the first game, but you'd actually need to wait until a certain mission that gives you an upgrade point, and then you can unlock one of those moves. The game can easily be finished without most upgrades, except maybe quick turn, and it never frustrated me because you get points pretty quickly. But a thing that was being criticized was getting flamed for a reason, and it was open world. Not was it only a lie, you had a small portion of the city available to you, but it also barely hit anything going for it. The game takes place in a near-future dystopian city called City of Glass, in a society under a totalitarian regime where people are all connected to one grid and spied on. The ones that don't want to be a part of it are outcasts, including us, the runners, who have our own version of grid, called the Beat. There are multiple ways to connect to the Beat: earpieces, eyelenses, headphones and such, which are more subtle, but the regular employees wear the bracelets that kinda look like the fitness trackers that we wear on our wrists. It's been a long time since all this started, and eventually people just gave in, realizing the riots couldn't do anything to fight the conglomerate and quietly accepted this life, and the ones that try to fight it just get beaten up and sent to Greylands. The role of the runners in this world isn't that major. They are just outcasts living on the rooftops, making living from covert delivery jobs. The game opens with Faith awakening from a throwback dream in jail cell. Today is the day we regain our freedom after 2 years. We'll learn more about why she ended up here in the prequel comic named Mirror's Edge Exordium, but I won't get into it this video. Basically, she messed up on a certain gig and got sent here for 6 months. Faith resisted many times and it kept adding up onto her total term, leading up to 2 years in total. You can see the Casa guard trying to provoke her in the opening cutscene.
Is rewarded.
Maybe you'd like another 3 months.
Laziness punished.
It would be so easy.
Personal freedom.
Which hints at the fact that Faith wasn't resisting just because she wanted to. When we are finally free, Faith goes to a red door instead of getting on the bus, and meets a figure she had never seen before, that claims to have been sent from Noah, aka the new generation Merc. We take the lens and start seeing things, which turn out to be the things regular employees see, since our grid link, the bracelet, is interfering with the bit link, and Icarus just removes it for us. Immediately after this we become wanted and hear the sirens in the distance and finally make our way back onto the rooftops. Reconnecting with Noah while making our way through the abandoned warehouse, we find out that Dogen set up a fake identity for us by the name of Phoenix Carpenter, because it would have been a lot more harsh on Faith since the beginning because of the events that happened when she was a child. Her parents used to be influential people that eventually got killed due to resisting Gabriel Kruger, thinking Faith was dead as well. Dogen is one of the new characters and not much is known about him other than the fact that he is kind of like a crime lord of the city and intimidates a lot of people. Eventually we make our way through to an abandoned construction where Icarus meets us with a bit of hostile demeanor. Anyway, after this we're introduced to combat training and afterwards go into my favorite sequence of fighting through a bunch of easiest enemies. Although we do get the toughest enemy that quickly kicks our ass and just as quick goes away, even though he never saw our body. After this, we get up onto the roof and are introduced to this amazing title card. What we're looking at is the new runner hideaway, right on top of a train transit section, which I always found really absurd. I know that the government doesn't really care much about the runners, but what if there is a sudden change in their mind and they would just love to suddenly raid it? I guess it's done more for the gameplay part, because from here you can get to like 3 different sides of the city, so I try not to think about it. After enjoying the city view, we quickly go to meet Noah in person, apologizing to him for all the trouble she's dealt to him. And they're both very happy to finally see each other. He tells her to go meet Birdman and picks up her old clothes. And let's finally talk about Faith's new design, which I really prefer over the original. The original design was rather simplistic, while here we have a rather slick and bold, but still kind of simplistic design. See in double-toned black and red on the glove, bag and shoes. In the first game, Faith did not care about her outfit that much, and she wore what was comfortable to her. But this time, she's more stylish, and I just love that so much. So now we just go to Birdman, as Noah said, and our alleged best friend calls us to congratulate on our freedom and asks for help.
So my best friend is out of prison and she doesn't even come to visit?
Hey, Nomad. How's it going?
Way better now that you're out, and it just so happens that I could also use your help.
I'm on my way to Birdman.
Yeah, I heard. I say that geezer can wait, but it's your choice. Check your map for where to find me.
I call him alleged because it feels like Faith kind of lost connection with him. We don't really spend time with him, and his side quests end very quickly, and he just becomes irrelevant.
Maybe we could snatch the chip from there.
You mean maybe I could snatch one?
Yeah, you know, I would, if I could.
I usually go to the Birdman first, where he gives us a dash to finish. Dashes are a new free roam activity, along with time trials, which both blend in with free roam setting. Dashes are only pre-made runs on time from A to B, where you can take whichever route you want, and time trials are only user-made, with 20 checkpoints max. You can publish only 10 time trials, because I'm assuming that is their way of not letting the game servers cry and die if there are too many time trials. Nomad's mission is getting the electro chips from these Olcom boxes, because outcasts in Greylands need them. after which we unlock new type of collectibles, these same chips scattered around the city. Now we have a lot more collectibles to work with. Grid leaks, audio recordings,
And so I'm forced to rule out that option. Maybe a
electro chips, documents, and the iconic runner bags, which now have beeping sound when you're around them. After this, we get a short but very cool mission of delivering those chips while also fighting our way through, and it serves as a tutorial for deliveries and fighting on the go, with which you don't lose your momentum and kick the enemies off their feet.
Got good flow. Keep it up. You're almost there. Keep it up.
Finishing the delivery, Noah tells us he finally has a good job for us, and tells us to meet him at the lair. Noah quickly briefs us on a decent job opportunity, an Elysium data grab. Fairly easy, but he wants Icarus to go together with us, just in case something goes wrong, and as you could expect, neither of them like this. Running at the beginning of the mission, we find out there is a suspicious open window, but not minding it much, we just enter the building.
Good. There might be a few employees around burning the midnight oil. And keep an eye out for Kruger's sack.
Eventually, we realize that we aren't alone in here. Gabriel Kruger himself is paying a visit.
I sent the request 3 days ago, Mr. Kruger.
It will be seen to. Anything else? What goes on in Kingdom is no concern of yours.
I found a way into agricultural, and I think Gabriel Kruger is here.
What? What? We should abort the run.
No, I'm finishing this.
And few minutes after, we see a spy wandering around.
No, there's someone else here. Doesn't look like a runner.
Just get out of there.
Sorry, but I'm gonna check it out.
Faith being Faith, she doesn't want to leave and go home. She decides to investigate further and just follows the figure into some sort of server room, where she finds them hacking into a terminal. Moments after, Kruger and the crew walk into the same room, following a fight between the agent and the mysterious girl, which ends in the spy unaliving themselves.
cyanide.
What a waste.
For whatever reason, Faith thinks it's a good idea to grab the hard drive with God knows what, and runs out of the room while the building goes into a lockdown, meaning Faith has to go really quick. And she does, by jumping out the building and sliding on the zipline thanks to Icarus.
I've been telling you for years, we don't do runs against Kruger's sec. And then what's the first thing you do when you get out? I don't know why I bother.
Noah obviously gets angry and yells that the runners don't go against Kruger's sec, and especially Kruger himself, and we just quietly run back home, where Faith shows off the trophy she got, which terrifies Noah, knowing it's something of value.
I got this.
This isn't from here.
Neither was the guy who had it. He died for it. Could be worth enough to solve things with Dogen.
Yeah, or enough to see us dead. Anything having to do with Gabriel Kruger, we need to stay miles away from.
Everyone just goes to sleep after this, and Faith has another throwback dream/nightmare of her childhood times.
Not now, honey. I have to finish this.
Girls, over here. You'll be safe in here. Just stay put.
Faith, I'm scared.
Let us go, Kruger.
You should have cooperated, Dr. Connors. I didn't want this.
Mommy, what is that?
That, my little squirrel, is your future.
She wakes up and gets a call from Nomad, who once again asks her for help because Krugersec have set up antennas around the city to allegedly clamp down on the runners. Gaysec hubs are now new free roam activity, and after destroying which you activate a pursuit after you. That will stop if you hide somewhere or in a safe house. Noah calls us to tell that he has an idea of what to do with the hard drive we stole, and tells us to go back to the lair, where he says he knows a talented hacker in the Anchor district.
If you're gonna use it for leverage with Dogen, we need to figure out what it is. I have a contact in Anchor who's a wizard with gridware. Name is Plastic. Take the drive there.
Plastic?
Yeah. Well, plastic can be a bit, well, never mind. Go there and we'll see what comes out of it.
We pick up a mag rope that Icarus gives us, and I'm gonna recall something from the times before the game was out. If I remember correctly, the addition of mag rope was kind of controversial in the community when it was announced, because people initially thought that it would just ease everything up by lots, almost removing the parkour aspect, but it ended up being not as major as people were making it out to be, because you could use it only in very certain points, and I find it very fun. We're going to the Anchor now. The glossy district perfectly shows off Catalyst's vibe in my opinion, which makes perfect sense knowing the fact that this was the very first district they built when making the game.
State your name and business. You have 5 seconds to comply.
Faith, here to see Plastic?
4, 3,
What the hell?
2,
I said cancel.
1.
Almost killed you. Sorry. Come in.
It's on it.
We meet Plastic, who is a young genius hacker that tells us that whoever had the hard drive is not from here, and it's gonna take at least a month to crack the encryption, unless we go to Olcom building and hook her up to a grid node so she could use its processing power. We go there and connect to a few terminals, leading into a lockdown with enemies trying to stop us. Defeating them, we run outside and Plastic tells us it wasn't enough, and we will need to go to the grid node itself and hack it from there. Grid nodes are basically places with powerful servers that store everything that is in the grid. As we go in, Noah tells us there's some commotion near Bubble Mall, near us.
Faith, KrugerSec is responding to some sort of activity near the Bobble Mall. General call. I don't think it's you, but be prepared for anything.
The grid nodes are rather easy. All you have to do is climb up and find the terminal to hack, and not to step into the blue lasers, because if you do multiple times, Gisa guards will get called to stop you. And honestly, I usually purposely step into them, just to fight later. There's only one grid node in each district, and completing each one of them unlocks the ability to fast travel into safe houses in the respective districts. On our way back, we get knocked out from a big and loud explosion. There was a terrorist attack on Bubble Mall. In shock, we run away back to Plastic's lair. There we find out that there's an entire blueprint for Reflection on the stolen hard drive. Reflection being the new way to connect to the grid and is launching sometime soon. And it will eventually make even more sense on why Kruger wants it back. But we make a choice to leave the hard drive to Plastic so she could study it more instead of just selling it to Dogen. When we come home, we find Noah argue with Rebecca, the leader of Black November, the organization dedicated to bringing down the conglomerate any means necessary, but Noah has always been against her violent ways when they were a part of the same group, hence why their relationship is so complicated. The reason they were arguing was because she was asking for the drive, and being scared of not fully understanding what Reflection is capable of, he denied her request. After this, Faith decides to pay Dogen a visit for the first time since she got released. They talk about paying off Faith's debt that she has since going to the prison, and offers the Reflection blueprint. Not wanting to give it away but also not currently having it, Dogen can't take the offer. What catches her attention is the drawing he has on the wall, clearly related to her mother, since we saw it in the throwback dream, which we all know as Faith's signature arm tattoo, which lacks from her right arm in this game for now. I always thought it was such a cool thing that they actually explained where it came from. Dogen tells Faith that Anansi have been late with their payments, and they should be taught a lesson, so he sends her to one of their malls under construction to do so. On the way out, we get the first upgrade to our mag rope that lets us pull ourselves on top of the attachment point, and keep running towards the Anansi Tower. We need to climb to the top and release the tuned mass damper, which is essentially a huge and heavy thing on top of the building that makes it safe from earthquakes and hurricanes. But Dogen wants to make it his weapon of destruction. Since Faith is a caring soul, she triggers a fire alarm beforehand to let the employees out, and only then goes to the big heavy thing. My favorite part in this mission is the mag rope swing between the two cranes. You can get an amazing view at the entire city and also have a fun swing at a really big height that would send somebody scared of heights into an intense panic attack. The tuned mass damper is supported by 3 clamps that we all successfully deactivate, and it leads into the thing piercing through the building. Our job here is done, and we are warned that KSEC is sending people to investigate the commotion, but we just quickly leave out of there without even seeing them. After this, Noah informs us that Icarus is missing and he can't contact him, so he asks us to visit his last whereabouts to see if he's okay. We go there and start picking up his signal, and something is clearly wrong.
What the hell is wrong with this thing?
Icarus?
We use a crane to get to the other side of the street and find him trapped in a cage with an electric fence. Instead of leaving him there, we get down to the streets to shut down the electricity, while also noticing lots of commotion. And Icarus says there are a lot of KSEC helicopters, but they decide to brush it off, thinking it has something to do with Black November, considering the mall bombing. On our way back, Noah wants to tell us that he has a new mission for us, except he gets cut off immediately.
Come back here, boy.
Noah?
Crap, Faith. All those Kruger sec, they're headed toward the lair. Being raided. We're being raided.
Noah! Say something!
Kruger sec is jamming us. We have to go back, Faith. Meet you there.
Damn it! Go faster!
All the helicopters that Icarus saw are actually flying to our lair. When we manage to get there, all we see is destruction and dead bodies, and the eerie silence. We look out the window and see the mysterious girl with KSEC taking Noah with themselves. Not having any other choice, we go in to beat up KSEC, resulting in a long fight sequence with waves of all types of enemies, including the strongest enemy that we've seen before, Sentinel. I know I haven't talked about the enemies yet, but this is the perfect time now. The first two are very similar, Guardian and Protector. They both have the same melee button weapon. The only difference is the second one has more health and can't be defeated with just light attacks. The best way of defeating him requires the stun advantage upgrade, with which you do a heavy attack and then just finish it with a series of light attacks. Next up are Enforcers, and despite them having a ranged weapon, in my opinion they are the weakest and the least intimidating ones. The reasoning behind it is 3 facts. First, if you're on the move, you develop Focus Shield. It protects you from losing your health, as long as your shield bar is full. They simply stop shooting at you if you're fighting other enemies. And the last one, they can't counterattack and can be put down with just light attacks. Shock Protectors have my most favorite enemy design in the game, the black and white suit with a cyberpunkish wizard on their face. They seem to have a handgun on their model, but the only thing they use is some sort of stun gun, except it's more lame compared to the stun gun that Pursuit Cops from the first game had. You defeat them the same way as Protectors, except these ones have more health, so you need to shift after finishing your light attacks, kick them in the back and go for the light attacks again. Since I mentioned Pursuit Cops, the last type of enemy is Sentinel, a new version of Pursuit Cop, the strongest KSEC unit that can easily hunt down anyone. Except it's not true, and he can literally be defeated in a few seconds if you just do this. Yes, they're way faster than other enemies, but they will never do a wall run, or climb a wall and jump from it to hit you, and are present only in closed-off environments where they don't need to use their alleged parkour skills, making them nothing more than a wasted design. Pursuit Cops appeared only twice in the first game, but they could keep you on the edge with how fast and unexpectedly they ran at you. If you try to fight them, you just die in few seconds while getting stunned over and over, and induce the fear of looking back when you're running away. While Sentinels have the intimidating look, they become a joke when you fight them twice and get bored of it already. Also, one new thing I dislike from Catalyst: the way new enemies get an introduction cutscene every time, showing them off and writing what they can do to let the player know. I miss the subtlety of the first game, when you could just run like usual and see absolutely new type of enemy in front of you, and you just figure out how to defeat them yourself. Nope, that's gone in the reboot. However, I really enjoy the third-person takedowns that happen when you defeat the lost enemy. At first, I didn't understand why it worked only on certain missions and never in Free Roam, for example. But that's due to the fact that they made it so it triggers only on certain missions and certain fight sequences. Which is really dumb in my opinion, because you have all these cool animations but you won't even see them once you're done with the story. Going back to the mission, I remember seeing some people say they actually rage quit because of this part. Huh? I never found combat even remotely difficult in this game. It's impossible for me to die in a fight in this game, and I love this mission for being able to just beat everyone up. Defeating the Sentinel, we get a cutscene of Faith and Icarus demanding one of the shock protectors to speak. And he says they had to shoot because none of them wanted to surrender. The pair gets interrupted by a KSEC drone and both of them split up as usual, with Faith fleeing the Zephyr transit hub until they lose her. After this, you are the main target of KrugerSec. The rooftops are sometimes filled with the patrol groups, and if you stand too long in front of a camera, it will trigger the guards looking for her and spawning from the near doors in few moments. That's unless you unlock Disrupt from the upgrade menu. Disrupt allows you the following: send loud sounds to the enemy's communication system, stun them for a short period of time, destroy nearby security camera and temporarily shut down nearby drones, allowing you to kick them and destroy them. Next two missions are in my opinion a bit forgettable and could have been easily combined into one. For the first mission, you go to the construction crate at downtown South, where we find out that the propaganda says that they have killed the leader of the runner group, meaning Noah. The duo is distraught from the news and decide to lay low and go to Rebecca Thane until things get less heated. Faith doesn't want to do it, but it's better than surviving in the open. The group lives in the abandoned tunnels under the Derzonin district, which essentially becomes our new home for now. Rebecca says she's sorry for what happened and sees the events as an opportunity to ask Faith for the reflection blueprint, which she denies and says it's better if she gets some well-deserved rest. And another throwback dream commences.
Shoot him. Who's that in the window? It's a damn kid. Get her.
It's a cat. It's me. Where's Mommy? I want Mommy. Faith, I can't breathe. Cat! Wake up! We gotta go! Cat.
This one is dead. Report it in. Go after the other one.
The next mission is just Faith helping Rebecca to get rid of KrugerSec. They are moving into the tunnels with stationary turrets, and we need to show them this is not their territory. After we are done, Rebecca calls us to come back for a discussion of new mission, which turns out to be the kidnapping of a high-ranking KSEC officer, aka the Woman in White, as to trade for the Black November prisoners. Today's plan is Rebecca exposing her location, since she is also a wanted target, and letting the target walk right into their ambush. Also, this time we get a final mag rope upgrade that lets us pull down the certain objects. Faith's and Icarus part of the plan is the diversion, making the turrets target us and swiftly disabling them. Icarus gets trapped in the area where the turrets lock onto him and requires our help. We help him and decide to split up so it all gets done faster. But what's the thing with Icarus always splitting up and never running or fighting with us? I remember them having footage of Faith and Icarus running together, even a snippet of a removed cutscene that featured Faith making a big jump with Icarus and Nomad watching. To this day, I still wonder the context of that scene, and I wish to see it in its entirety. Anyway, eventually we get to the sequence of running through the turrets with all the explosions and stuff, disabling each one of them at a time, while Rebecca is reporting on the entire operation progress. Honorable mention to this cool jump from a cargo hung via the crane to get to the second building with another third terminal. Except the path to the terminal is blocked off, so the only thing to disable it is drop something very heavy into it. Icarus lowers some huge steel beams for us and we jump onto them, releasing them right onto the terminal, resulting in probably the loudest and most annoying sound in the video game. Our trophy has turned out to be Isabel Kruger, Gabriel Kruger's own daughter, the kidnapping of whose is all over the news. When we talk to her, she's obviously not really talkative, but she says she recognizes us from Elysium.
Come to interrogate me some more? She put 4 of my people in the infirmary. We know who you are.
Then I suggest you let me go.
Maybe. Alive or dead depends upon what your father offers in return.
I can't imagine Kruger caring for anyone.
You were at Elysium?
And you murdered my friends.
They were leeches. You all are.
And you're just a tool. A broken one.
After this, Nomad contacts us out of nowhere to say that Kasek have occupied the lair and set up one of the antennas on its rooftop, and we need to take it down. This mission is really just a copy of Mischief Maker, except somehow feels less impactful, and you can't even replay it for some reason, just like the first one. I'm not sure what was the reason for that, but I will close my eyes on this. Once we take our territory back, Dogen contacts us, saying Noah is most likely still alive, and the propaganda was just lying. Although, even if he is indeed alive, he has been sent to the Greylands. Since now Faith has a potential new information source, she heads to the tunnels to talk to Isabel, who refuses to say anything, but we tell her that if the information holds up, we will help her to get out of here. The only thing she says is that all the information can be accessed through the KrugerSec mainframe located at KSec HQ, which is, according to Plastic, is very well guarded. While we are running to unlock a new district, Plastic tells us some more new information about reflection. It's apparently a fluid with nanites in it that you inject, and once in your body, you are permanently connected to the grid and can regulate your physical and mental health levels. Sounds just about the same as the conspiracy Facebook posts about the COVID vaccine that you would get from your older relative. Eventually we get to the View, the final district to unlock. It's a district where the high castes live, on the perfect and beautiful rooftops with trees everywhere. Plastic develops a plan getting into the docks, aka KrugerSec HQ. We'll need to attach ourselves onto the KSec helicopter and get off while it's over the building. It sounds crazy and dangerous, but it ends up working and provides us an amazing cutscene with a view at the city. And we get off at the building's landing pad, and we need to make our way to the other side of the building where our needed data is stored through the elevator shafts and the bridge connecting two buildings together.
You'll be a legend if you survive.
Faith asks her about her family, and she replies that her family is in Greylands, but isn't with them because she can't stand her sister. After an awkward interaction, we finally get into the server stack, a huge and beautiful space full of servers emitting the dark blue lights. No, but let's talk about the visual level designs and just how good they are. They were the specialty of the first game, and while that also one has also stunning designs, I genuinely think Catalyst does it even better and makes it probably the best part of this game. You have dirty streets nearby a prison that slowly transition into a construction, and then an old school type of vibe that is downtown. Slick and glossy anchor that goes into the perfect but artificial The View for the richest people that live in a fake fantasy of nature. Eventually, we make it to the priority switch, and Plastic gets all the needed information about the prisoners, and a personal request from Faith, all possible information regarding Isabel Kruger. The alarm has been triggered, and the only way Faith can escape is through the main lobby on a train. Except when she gets there, one of the train leaves, and now you have to wait for the next one and fight back. As long as I remember, you need to take down the first group of the enemies, and once a sentinel spawns, you can just wait out until a train arrives. There's a hilarious glitch where you can jump onto this hanging thing, and his pathfinding will be broken, and he won't have a way to harm you, so you can use that in case you don't want to fight and just jump onto the train. By the time she gets back to Zephyr Transit Hub, Plastic manages to find out that Noah has been sent to the whatever place called Kingdom, and heads out to Dogen for more information. He says it's a conglomerate dirty secret and doesn't tell more, making Faith desperate and getting a simple answer.
I'll run for you. 5 years, no questions asked. 10 years. 20.
You won't live that long. Go to rezoning and dig your way down. That's where you'll find Kingdom.
But there's more interesting things to come because Plastic has uncovered a revelation.
Finally! Guess what? Isabel Kruger is not Gabriel Kruger's biological daughter. He adopted her. Her real name is Caitlin Connors. Isn't your name Connors too? What if...
It is. I have to talk to her.
Isabel isn't Gabriel's biological daughter. He adopted her, and her name is Caitlin Connors. Our long-gone sister is alive and stands against everything we believe in. We go to talk to her, and it turns out Rebecca took her to execute her as a message to Kruger. But Faith runs in on time and stands up for her sister and tries to manipulate Rebecca by promising to give her the reflection blueprint if she takes Isabel to a safe place.
Her name's Caitlin Connors, and she's my sister. And I think you know.
All I know is that the air down here is already killing me. So you might as well get it over with.
Please, Rebecca! Noah's being held in a place called Kingdom. I have to go get him. Is there some place you can take her topside in the meantime?
We've all had to make hard sacrifices in this struggle, Faith.
I'll give you what you want. You know what I mean.
Plastic sends the location of the door with potential entrance to the kingdom. And unlike in the beginning of the game, Icarus actually wants to go with us. But Faith refuses because she says she runs better alone and she needs someone to look after her sister. As I have already mentioned earlier, we are once again denied of having a co-op mission with an AI partner, despite them having a few frames of him being present at the kingdom location in the trailer. Plastic opens the blast door for us and we go in, prepared to see whatever is being hidden there. The deeper we go, we discover a huge facility very deep down, obviously meaning the shadiest things are happening in there. Before the comms go down, Plastic manages to say that the security hubs Kasek have been installing are the antennas for reflection, and Icarus tells us that Rebecca is moving Isabel to a safe place above the ground, right as he gets cut off.
Rebecca is moving Isabel to a safe house above ground. Your sister really can't breathe down here. There's something messed up with her lungs. I'm going with them, but I'm not sure what Rebecca...
Icarus? Icarus, you there? Plastic. Guess I'm on my own.
We are now completely alone and have to explore this place all by ourselves. Eventually we stumble upon a room filled with cells full of people, at the top of which we actually find the other woman that we also saw on the Elysium night, Eileen Mayra, this time as one of the Kruger's prisoners. Once Fate had stolen the blueprint, he blamed it all on Eileen. She describes the entire reflection thing as the end of free thought instead of just a new way of connecting to the grid, and reveals that Faith's mother's research helped bring reflection to life, before she became useless to Kruger. One last thing she says is that Noah has been taken to the interrogation room and asks us for help with getting out of here by pressing the emergency release button. Eileen escapes, and we go down the wide and long sterile hallways, looking for the interrogation room, while also fighting all the Kasek guards trying to stop us. We find a big blast door, to the other side of which is where the Noah's interrogation is happening by Kruger himself. We get behind and fight Kruger torturing Noah to tell him where Faith and Blueprint are, but he doesn't want to betray her and refuses to say no matter what, sacrificing himself, as Kruger tells the employee to execute him, since he denies all the emotional control of reflection. And his execution is the first time we see the dark side of it, and what could be done on anyone after they're injected with it.
Come on. I'll get you out of here. No. No, 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 no. Don't do this. I'm here. I came for you.
Eileen and other prisoners come to her and tell her they're leaving to Black November base just in time for Kasek to also appear, and she sends them away to keep the guards busy. Don't get me wrong, I respect Noah, because from Faith's perspective he was the most important person and a father figure to her. This is a very big loss to her, but to me, as a player, he didn't feel like more than just a two-dimensional character, as someone who just gave 2 missions to us and disappeared for the rest of the game. We find an elevator that lifts us back, comes go back up, and we tell Plastic what happened, and just leave out of there back to the base for the last time. Turns out Kasek had been waiting for Isabel to get up, and quickly tracked her with the reflection signal, also managing to inject Icarus as well. Rebecca is mad that they're both here, and Aline says that the signal can't reach that deep, and Icarus' reflection isn't even active yet, but it doesn't help her, and asks Faith for the blueprint, so she could help develop a plan destroying the reflection, and she sends her and Icarus to Plastic's place, where the reflection signal is never gonna work, due to the scrambler she made, and goes to take a nap. We get one last dream sequence from the time when she seemingly killed this Kesa guard out of fear, and Noah picked her up and took her to a safe place, and it cuts back to Faith in tears. While running to Dogen's restaurant for a visit, Aline calls us to tell her that her and Plastic found a way to destroy reflection, with one exception. We need Kruger's grid print to do it, that she can't locate nor crack, and is being kept on a whole separate network. Hearing the news, she gets desperate and goes to Dogen in a really terrible mood, saying Kruger has won, but he says you can access the entire family network from his apartment. But once again, she believes there is no way to get past its security and breaks down in tears.
I once knew a young woman who would defy anyone and anything, even me, in order to do what she felt was right. But you're clearly not her. You're broken. Take the drawing and go.
Since when do you care for what's right?
When it coincides with my interests, why are you still here?
Because you're wrong. I'm not broken.
Prove it.
I will.
Indeed, there is a way to get to his apartment, and we're gonna do it through the art museum underneath that has an access to Kruger's lobby with an elevator right to his apartment. This probably is the most combat-heavy mission in this game, where Faith explicitly says that it's time to face Kasek, and deservedly beat them up. And my god, I love it so much. Eventually we get to the elevator, and go into Kruger's fancy apartment and his empty office, which has a really nice view at the new shard. She takes his grid print, but when tries to leave gets confronted by Kruger via video transmission, and they have a heated conversation where he brags how he raised Kat after Faith left her to die.
You and your sister are quite alike.
She doesn't know who I am anymore. You brainwashed her.
I raised her to the best of my ability, provided her with an excellent education, and taught her how to lead. It's what any father would do for his daughter.
Except she's not your daughter, Kruger. Wasn't it enough to have our parents killed? You had to take Kat too like some damn trophy.
I saved her life. You left her to die, remember that?
They both get interrupted by a loud explosion on the shard.
This is your doing.
Rebecca wasn't lying when she said she had other ways to hurt those in power. Kruger is seemingly located in the same building due to the glitching on the screen, and Faith quietly leaves. Kasek is already here, and the only way we can quickly escape from here is just by riding a security drone, leaving her exposed in the open. I love this scene so much. Now we go to Plastic and Aline to give them the grip print they need. In this scene we witness the side effects of the reflection injection, as Icarus says it feels like the inside of his spine is itching, and his body hurts. The progress of making the virus had been started, but we have one problem. The main reflection console is at the very top of the shard, and she has to go up there for the plan to work, but it's unstable and could collapse any minute. The only way of getting into the island where the shard is located is by using a train, and in the next mission we are hacking into the 3 control hubs before the timer runs out. I don't have much to say about this mission, but it's just a nice preparation for the finale. We go back to get the virus and we see a cutscene start from Plastic's robot, Kuma, wake Icarus up. I haven't talked about this yet, but there's a small subplot that you could easily miss. Plastic has a precious personal robot assistant as her friend that she made and programmed herself. But ever since Faith met them, Kuma starts behaving differently, craving affection and showing emotion, Plastic says she can't even find an error in his code, and I've always seen this as a representation of faith being the catalyst of change.
There's a console in the main control chamber in the shard. Upload the virus there. It'll permanently corrupt the carrier signal and cause the reflection nanites to go inert.
You just need to get to the top. The rest will take care of itself. More or less.
Simple, right?
Right.
It'll be the greatest run ever.
If I live. Well, there's no time like the present. Any last advice?
Don't die.
What she said.
This is our one chance to nip reflection in the bud. Come on, girl. Save us all.
We run to the Zephyr and take our train controlled by Plastic and take off to the Shard. This is a direct reference to the train sequence from the first game, except this time it's a lot less intense and requires you to just avoid the obstacles and stay on the same train. While Eileen talks how important it is to destroy reflection, otherwise the conglomerate will make it mandatory for every living soul in the country. The final mission is easily my most favorite mission in the entire game, if not franchise, so get ready for lots of praise from me. The Shard is essentially a whole island, located outside the city, where only the most powerful people live, and it represents the disgust of conglomerate to everybody else, probably even high caste. This building goes higher than the clouds, showing the people how much higher they are than the regular ones will ever be, even though their propaganda tries to sell the ideology that anyone can grow this high if they work hard enough. The island has everything: shops, restaurants, apartments, so that people living here have no need to ever go back to the city. A big and tall glass fortress, except with one flaw: glass is fragile, and Black November has certainly proved it well. We run on a prescripted shattering glass and get up via moving elevators to the engineering room, at the end of which Gesa guards are waiting for us. Defeating them, we get out of there and attach our mag rope to the moving rotor blades. Going through one of the fences that Plastic stopped, we have to go up the elevator shafts by climbing up the pipes and avoiding the falling debris. And this is boring. They repeat the exact same segment 3 times in this one mission, and if I didn't like it much from the first time, I won't like it any further. Literally jumping from pipe to pipe for a few minutes. It's not engaging at all. Anyway, we find out our way into the atrium, the place with more greenery than any employee ever sees, because real trees and plants have been long absent from the city, just like fresh water floating over here that is becoming more and more valuable. This once again represents how the conglomerate is stealing everything from regular people, even things that anyone could enjoy at any times in the past. Going a bit forward, we get an even longer shaft sequence. Yeah. We get up at the most damaged area. We have to climb all the way up here through the very fragile glass that almost immediately breaks under us, constantly using the mag rope to pull ourselves up until we step on a very thin rope between the tower and the rotor blade, balancing through and once again attaching ourselves to one of the rotor blades and smashing through the window with our own body to get in. Wow, this one sequence just proves how badass and fearless Faith is. She literally beats any possible weak runner allegations that Icarus had earlier in the game. And in general, Faith is a criminally underrated woman in the gaming industry. We quickly get up without any issues and run around while waiting for Plastic to open the elevator, just to find a lot of guards waiting around the corner. I love to beat them up every time, even if the elevator is already opened. Now all left to do is climb the last elevator shaft, with one difference this time. Instead of falling objects, we are being shot at by Kasek enforcers. Dogen intervenes, saying he's also eagerly watching our entire run together with a group like it's some big football match, hyping us up that we could get our mother's drawing that he has. We finally get to the very top and the highest point of the city, high above the clouds and with a view that not anybody can be offered to enjoy. We go into the room with the reflection console and connect the drive with the virus. Moments later, Kruger immediately bursts into the room with 2 sentinels and tells her to give up, and some sort of boss fight commences. I guess it's supposed to be a boss fight? Not sure, because Grid Note in the view also has 2 sentinels, in case the alert is triggered. And that can happen even before the finale, so I'm not sure what they were trying to do here. They either should have done waves of enemies with the double amount of them from Flytrap, or just made a special unit of Sentinel that could have been harder to defeat, because this is like the easiest boss fight I've ever had to engage in. Now a cutscene starts, with Kruger trying to stop the device, but fails when Faith jumps onto him and throws him sideways and they start fighting. She overpowers him, and he reveals Isabel has been suffering from chronic lung condition, and Reflection was the only thing to keep her from suffering.
Isabel has a chronic lung condition. With Reflection, we've managed to keep it at bay. Destroy it.
She starts beating him up for everyone he has hurt.
You killed my family. You killed my friends. And you killed
And takes his baton to finish him off, but sadly stops when Isabel appears. She also tries to stop the device, but also fails because she's out of time and it seems like it hurt her. Kruger wasn't lying. She chases her down to the helicopter pad and they both start fighting. I'll just play the cutscene for you to see the action.
I have no sister. You left me! Cat! He said you died in the riots. With Mom and Dad. I cried for months. And then I convinced myself that you never existed. It was the only way. He killed our parents! I saw it! And he's killed hundreds more for the sake of Reflection!
Isabel! Come! We're leaving!
You don't have to do what he says, Cat! You are your own person!
This has gone on long enough! Fire!
No! Don't understand. I have to.
And that's how it all went down. I wish I could say everything changed. That the employees rose up in disgust over Reflection and overthrew the conglomerate. But there was no mass uprising. No riots on the streets. Kruger's sect remained in control. Life went on as before. Or almost. Because something had changed. We'd started something. Something we intend to finish.
And now, it's over. We get a cutscene of Faith getting a tattoo of Faith's mother's drawing, presumably the reflection schematic, while also talking how literally nothing changed. There were no riots, nobody woke up, no one did anything, so this story was really useless, which bothers me to this day. What was the purpose of all of this? I remember the promotional material before the game came out always mentioned conglomerate and taking it down, and I was there for it. I was expecting the ending of the shard collapsing as the entire city is in panic, riots would have overtaken the streets, and stuff like that. But nope, all we got was the story about taking down the reflection. I'm thinking there was a bigger story for the next games, and this was sort of an origin story for Faith, with her becoming more and more badass each game and truly changing the world. But we never even got a single DLC, even though it was coming, and voice actors of Faith and Icarus were confirmed to have been appearing to work together again, after the game had come out. I already said in the intro, the new game isn't coming anytime soon either, as DICE has made a statement that they want to focus on Battlefield rather than try anything new, or try recovering some fan favorite franchises. After completing the story, you can freely explore the city and collect all the bags and stuff. There's a few side quests from some of the characters like Plastic, Nomad, Birdman and others, but I won't talk about them because if you don't know what they are, then you should probably pick the game up and play them for yourselves. Besides side mission, you can also complete the deliveries and diversion missions that random people give you and tell you some short stories.
This package contains a small statue which has quite an affectionate value for me. I'm giving it away, a token of sorts. Don't break it or you'll ruin everything.
I'm not sure he remembers what this statue means to me, what it used to signify. I mean, we were young back then, we were different people, we had dreams, we had places to go, things to see. This was before the riots, of course. Our friends died that day, and it feels like we spent the years afterwards trying to block it out of our minds. After the riots, we spent a week holed up in my apartment. The statue was standing on the table in my living room. We used to joke about it being there, present for all our conversations, looking at us with unseeing eyes, listening but not hearing, still registering everything. I hope that when he sees it, some spark of what he used to be is reignited. Things must change. But it's not worth it if he doesn't change too.
It's from her, isn't it? She told me she'd settle. I don't get why she couldn't use Cascadia logistics like normal people. She must have put a flare on things. Thank you.
I have been a fan of this franchise for almost a decade now, and can go on for hours talking about how much I love the smooth gameplay, beautiful cityscapes, level design, and especially the outstanding soundtrack of both games composed by Solar Fields. Their tunes perfectly reflect all the beauty, peaceful and sometimes intense situations that happen on your screen. All the ambient sounds that play in different districts of Catalyst perfectly portray the atmosphere of each of them, and the same goes to the shootout sequences in the first game. The vibrant colors that you never see in most games, especially with the dystopian setting, and the beautiful level designs of each chapter of level that make you wish you could visit those places in real life. I'm fully aware of how the shard in Catalyst is a representation of government's disgust, but man, that building idea is just so beautiful. I'd give everything to sit in that atrium for at least an hour or to spend few nights at the top levels. I often see people say Catalyst should have never happened, but I won't be afraid to admit I prefer it over the original. It has its flaws, but I still love them both so much at the same time. I don't play it as often nowadays, but that's because I've already had lots and lots of fun for over hundreds and almost thousands of hours, and I always recommend these games for people to give them a try at least once. And I'm telling you to send this video to the friends you've been trying to convince to play this game, or if you're new and you're thinking about playing, I really hope you enjoy it as much as I did. This video was my love letter to the franchise I'm devoted to, and I want to thank every single person who's been involved in the making of both games, and please EA, please, consider experimenting and trying it again. It won't hurt you, trust me. I also thank you for spending so much time on actually finishing this video and being at this point in time. I hope it wasn't too bad. You guys should also watch the next video that should be uploaded right after this, because in it I'm talking about my plans for the channel, and I'm doing something very special for it. I've been writing the script for this video for a ridiculous amount of time that will be kept in secret, and it's currently 7 in the morning as I'm finishing writing this and listening to Rina Sawayama. Before I play the final montage, I want to mention that I'm trying to reach 1000 subscribers on this channel. So if you enjoy this type of content, I have more things coming soon. So if you want to stick around, consider liking this video and subscribing. It would help me out a lot, and if you ever change your mind, you can just unsubscribe at any moment. Thank you all so much for watching. I love you all and see you a lot sooner than before.